Hey guys, it's Mr. Gonzalez. We're going to talk about your recorder today. Alright, so mine looks a little bit different from yours, but the construction is still very similar. It has 7 holes on the top and then 1 hole on the back. So here's hole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Notice how holes 6 and 7 have 2 small holes on them. So when we place our fingers down, we need to make sure both of those little holes are covered. Alright, so you're going to use the fat part of your finger to cover up both holes. Let's take a look at some notes. Alright, so now that we've covered our holes, let's talk about where our hands go. Our left hand is going to go on the top. So we're going to put our left hand thumb on that bottom hole and then use our first, second, and third fingers to cover up those top 3 holes. Our pinky isn't going to do anything. It's just going to hang out. Now, with our right hand, we're going to cover the last 4 holes. And remember, for hole 6 and hole 7, we're going to make sure the little fat part of our fingers are covering both of those little holes. Alright, so our first note is going to be C, and it looks like this. Our left hand thumb is covering that back hole. Our right hand thumb is acting as a support, and then the only finger we're not using is our left hand pinky. Okay, so here is your first note, C. When I am blowing into the instrument, I am putting it right up against here. So I'm putting this part of the instrument right up against my bottom lip. And then, if you can see here, and then I'm just going to close my top lip, kind of just like I'm closing my mouth. I'm not going to bite down, but I'm also not going to let air escape from the sides. That's the mouth shape that we're looking for. Now, there's a couple of things that are going to happen. When you first try to push air through your instrument, it might sound something like this. Okay? So, if you sound like that, that means you're blowing too much air through your instrument at once. Alright, you saw how my cheeks were puffed out, the pitch was really, really high and piercing. That's not what we're looking for. Alright, so when we blow into the instrument, we don't want to be a chipmunk. Okay, we're not trying to be a chipmunk or a pufferfish. What we're trying to do is consistently push air through the instrument. And that's what helps make a nice, pleasant, round, warm tone like this. Notice how my tone was relatively straight. It was relatively the same pitch. So, what you want to be careful with is you'd want to be careful not to make your mouth move and stuff while you're pushing air through your instrument, or else it'll sound something like this. See, if you move your mouth, or if you push too much air and you're not consistent, you will change the sound that you produce. So we're looking for that nice, flat tone. Or not flat tone, but consistent tone. So, let's review. We have C by placing down your thumb, left hand thumb, and your top fingers of your left hand on your recorder. Then, making sure the bottom holes are covered really well. With our right hand, we cover up these last 4 holes and we use the thumb as a support. So we make C. Now, let's talk about D. You're going to notice, I've posted up a little, diagram of your recorder, and then that some of the holes are darkened in for the C. But now, for D, we're going to notice that there's going to be one hole that's not darkened in. So if you see a hole that's not darkened in, that means we're just going to lift up our finger. And that's all. So for D, you see the back hole is covered. you see the top 3 holes darkened in, and then you see the bottom 3 holes darkened in. So no more pinky this time. Right now our pinkies are just going to be out here. Although I'm going to leave my pinky kind of close, for good practice to make sure if when I have to play C again, I'm ready to go. So here is what D should sound like. Now that we covered D, we're going to take a look at another note. We're going to look at the note E. So again, the top 4, or 1 here, 3 here. Our left hand is going to be all down. And then with our right hand, we're only going to put fingers 1 and fingers 2 down. So we're leaving these 2 holes open. Again, I'm going to leave my fingers just slightly above, so when it comes time to play D and C, my hand's ready. Alright guys, so let's talk about F. To make F, the first thing we're going to do is put all of our fingers down like if we were going to play C. But then, lift up the middle finger of your right hand, exposing that 5th hole. Okay? So this is what our F looks like. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, next let's look at G. So far, we've been lifting up our fingers, except with the exception of F, to get a higher note. So that's what we're going to do right now with G. Our right hand isn't going to play anything. We're not going to cover any holes. And our thumb is still just going to sit here as support. But G is just the top 3 and your thumb. Alright? So here's what G sounds like. Now, let's take a look at A. So, much like G, we're just going to lift up 1 finger. So now we have our 1st and 2nd finger down and thumb still. We're still going to use our right hand as a support, but we're not going to play. And now we keep our unused fingers just slightly above. So when it comes time to play any of the other notes, they're good to go. So here is our A. Now that we've looked at A, I have 2 more notes I need you to know. The second to last note I need you to know is B. So for B, it's just your 1st finger and your thumb. Everything else is going to be off, and we're still going to use our right hand as support. So hover your fingers, so when it comes time to play your other notes, they're good to go. Here's what your B sounds like. Alright, last but not least, we have our high C. So, our first C, the low C, was all our holes covered up. And then we, as our notes got higher, we removed fingers. So naturally you would think, oh, this would be C, like nothing but the thumb. That's a good guess, but not quite. So what we're going to do, we're still going to keep the thumb there, but we're going to put down our 2nd finger in our left hand. Alright, so this finger is lifted up, this finger is lifted up, and all of your right hand fingers are lifted up. So we only have the instrument being, covered by your thumb and your 2nd finger of your left hand. We're going to keep our right hand for support. Everybody else is going to be ready to go. So here is what our high C sounds like. So now that we've gone from low C to high C, we're just going to go over really quick the finger positions that you're going to need to remember. Alright, so I need you to know all 8. We'll add some more later, but right now these are the first 8. So we have low C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then high C. All right, so those are your first 8 notes. Start working on them, guys. Start memorizing your positions. And then I can't wait to see what you do. Keep practicing. Practice your breathing, making sure you're not pushing really fast air into the instrument. Make sure we have a nice, consistent tone. And I can't wait to hear what you guys do. All right, see ya.